leading up to the season 7 finale of Outlander, I am putting together all of my favorite episodes from each season of the series. This video will cover my favorite episode from season 4, which is episode 9. This episode is called The Birds and the Bees, and it is the scene that we get between Jamie and Brianna that makes this one of my favorite episodes of season 4. We are still fresh off of Brianna traveling through the stones and trying to find her mother and her biological father, Jamie, someone who she's now read about throughout history and heard about from Claire, but not yet met in person, and really never thought she would get to meet in person. And so this moment is something that's been building steadily since season 2, when we first learned about Brianna for the first time, and also went through the whole mental load she had of realizing who her actual dad is, learning about Claire's experience when she traveled back in time, coming to grips with time travel being a thing, the fact that she can do it, the fact that Roger can do it, and then obviously the horrible tragedy that happened to her in Wilmington being her first introduction to this time, and how brutal it can be was something that was really potent in the previous episodes. We've been seeing Claire and Jamie talk about Bree, and Jamie definitely wants to learn about her, and Claire is missing her deeply at this point in the series as well, and in the books, and so it just seems like the perfect kind of culmination of events in this episode. Claire and Brianna reuniting is something that I think anyone who's a daughter can relate to. The feeling of longing for your mom and the familiarity of someone who's known you quite literally your whole entire life, and not having that accessible to you. I'm lucky that I don't have that experience, but I can only imagine that this was healing for both of them in such a huge way. And in this episode, I think the part that I really love is that in an ideal, story, fictional story, you would assume that they would just automatically click and everything would be perfect and happy and dandy. But these people are strangers. And when you know so much about someone, but you don't know them, it can be awkward. And I think that they captured that awkwardness perfectly in this episode as well. Jamie literally never dreamed that he would get the opportunity to see Claire again or meet his biological daughter. I think, you can imagine he doesn't even know if she survived. So when he finds out in season 3 that she lives, there's this, fictitious person that he's had in his brain, and he doesn't know anything about her except for what Claire has relayed to him. But I can imagine he's also, envisioned the type of person she would be, given it's him and Claire's kid. And so when he gets to meet Brianna, there's so much buildup in his mind of who she is already. And I think walking him through that kind of awkward stage of realizing that she doesn't know him or love him in the way that he knows and loves her. And that's no one's fault, but it's just a very poignant point that this episode makes, and it's a harsh reality that Jamie has to grapple with. I also really love that, again, Myrta is not alive at this point in the books, and he's written into the show, and so any scene with him is extra special because it's not taken from the book. And so Jamie being so excited to introduce his daughter, someone who he's bragged about essentially, to Myrta, it was just so heartwarming to me, especially because Jamie has very few people in his life besides Jenny at this point that he reveres in such a way that he would, first of all, be comfortable explaining the situation of where this mysterious daughter just appeared from, but also understands the implications of her being there and how that must feel for Jamie. And Myrta's one of those few people who he went through all of that heartbreak and mourning with him, and we can only assume, since they wrote him into more scenes and moments in Jamie's life in the show, that he has a very big picture of Jamie's feelings towards Brianna, and they've probably talked about her at length. So I think this was a really big payoff to see them both interact with her for the first time, and her with them. This is a big turning point moment in the books when these two characters finally meet, and this family unit is basically reunited in a way, but also built in other ways, because Jamie hasn't been a part of their dynamic before, and it changes everything when Brianna gets there. So this scene, there was a lot of weight, behind it and a lot of riding on it, and I think they pulled it off really, really beautifully. And I'm not someone who, again, cares so much about the physical appearance and casting of some characters, but I would say Brianna, up until this point, didn't really look like Jamie a whole lot, but then as soon as they put her, and this is strategic, as soon as they put her in that era, those features of hers that do look like Sam Heughan's definitely come out more. And I think the way that they have her styled in this was perfect, because it was also a time where they were mirroring each other for the first time, and we really got that kind of satisfaction or payoff of seeing them as father-daughter and recognizing themselves in one another too.